Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Adam, this is my channel Adam Sews, and today I want to talk to you about my personal view on thread basting EPP versus glue basting EPP. So if it's something that interests you and you'd like to know how I thread base my EPP hexes and different shapes, then stick around and I'll show you how I do it. So what is the difference between thread basting and glue basting? Well, glue basting, you obviously use a glue on the back of the hexie, and thread basting, you would use a thread. So the difference is not really much, really, to be honest. In terms of the actual finished overall appearance of your prepped English paper piece, there's not really that much in it. The difference I tend to find is the glue basting is messy. The glue that you use for glue basting is normally quite expensive because it's quite a specialised thing. I'm just going to quickly just add a sidebar on that one, and that it is not actually a specialised thing. The glue that is used for glue basting is your standard Pritt stick or Elmer's glue stick that you would use for any school glue projects, basically. So if you're going to glue baste, I would highly recommend just getting yourself a stick of Elmer's glue. If you get the purple one, you can see where you've basted and so on, and it will wash out exactly the same as the specific EPP one, and you get about 5 times the amount of glue for half the price. So what are the pros and cons of thread basting versus glue basting that I find? So I personally, the glue basting, it is a slightly neater finish, don't get me wrong. But the thing that I tend to find is, one, you are then basically wearing out your paper a lot sooner. I like to use my papers over and over again as many times as I can. It's more economical, it's more sustainable if you can reuse them. And with glue basting, you can't use them as many times because you end up tearing the papers eventually. The glue basting is quite messy. You end up with glue all over your fingertips, which is not a big deal. It's non-toxic, it washes off really easy, it's water dissolvable, so it's not the end of the world. But when you're basting a lot of them, you can get quite sticky and you're quite a mess with the glue. The other thing that I don't particularly like about the glue basting, which is probably my biggest gripe with glue basting, is because you get much more of a structured, sort of slightly tighter edge on your EPP prepped piece. It's very, very hard to pick up the very, very edge of the fabric without actually piercing the paper, which again means that your paper is non-reusable a lot sooner. But it's actually harder to stitch them together. So stitching together two that are glue basted, you tend to find there's less slack on the edge of the paper. So when you're trying to get a needle through, it's harder to pick up the edge. You end up stitching further into the paper most of the time, and it also normally shows your stitches more on the front, funnily enough. So with thread basting as well, the plus side to thread basting is you don't necessarily have to cut your piece to a perfect hexie with a seam allowance, which you would normally do if you was glue basting, because you can actually manipulate it in your own way, out of the way, as you're thread basting. So I am going to quickly show you how I thread baste, and I hope that helps some people. I tend to find it's actually quicker. It takes about the same time, if not quicker, to do thread based, and you also then end up with pieces that are a lot easier to stitch together because you have a little bit more slack on the edge of the paper. You actually hide your stitches better. It's more economical. You don't have to take your stitches out of the back of it when you've done your thread basting. You can actually just pop your papers out afterwards, and yeah, I will show you how I thread baste. Now this, I just want to put a quick disclaimer on there. This is how I thread baste. I don't know if it's the right way to do it. It works for me. It's worked for me for the while that I've been doing it now, and it's the way that I do it. So I will switch over and show you how I thread baste now. So as you can see here, this is a perfectly cut hexie, which has got a 3/4 inch seam allowance on the outside. And I would be, if I was glue basting this, I would line up my paper piece as close to a centre as I could possibly get it, and then I would glue one edge of the fabric, and I would fold it over and glue that down. Then I would glue the next one, fold that over and glue that down, and so on until you get round to this, which is your glue basted hexie. Now, if you are thread basting, they're actually easier, I find, if you don't actually cut the fabric beforehand. You can do if you so wish to, but it gives you a little bit less to play with, and it's actually quicker if you just use scrap squares. So this here is a scrap pack that it's an EPP pack that I actually got from I Heart Tudor Pink. As some of you may know, I love myself some Tudor Pink fabrics, and I am going to pick this one in red because I'm hoping that it will show up easier on camera. So what I like to do is I like to position my hexie on the inside. I then fold over one edge, give it a little bit of squeeze just to sort of finger press that, and then what I then do is fold in my other edge like so, and then I will take my thread and I'm going to just quickly spin the camera around because I think it will make it easier for you to see. So as I was saying, I like to fold in one side of my fabric and then I like to fold down the other edge here, which gives me a nice clean even edge there. What I then tend to do is use my thread and I pick up in the corner there, I run it through till I've got a tail on there, and then I go through the same 2 stitches just to create a very loose stitch off at the end there. Just so I've got a nice secure thread on there. It doesn't have to be that secure, it's only got to be secure enough to keep your paper piece in. And then what I do is I then fold over the next one. I will go through the 2 here, and then back through the same. So what you're basically creating is a slight back stitch where each join of the fabrics are. So then I'll fold the next one down, give it a pinch and manipulate it so that it's nice and folded flat. Do a double stitch on that join there, fold the next bit down through all layers of the fabric into the corner, fold the next one down, again picking up the bottom and top fabric, stitch through, and then the last one I like to fold the edge down, but I use my needle to get a nice crisp corner and then catch those layers there. And then what I tend to do is go back to where I started if I've got enough thread on my needle, and just go back through those original 2 stitches just to lock the thread basting in place. Go through there once and twice as you did at the very beginning, and then you can cut off your excess thread, and then you have a thread basted hexie. So that is how I tend to thread baste my paper piecing.